Rental property deductions in 2026 come down to one high-stakes decision you make over and over. Is this expense a repair you deduct now, or an improvement you must capitalize and recover through depreciation? If you get that decision right, you protect cash flow and stay compliant. If you get it wrong, you risk losing deductions, triggering adjustments, or creating messy depreciation schedules that haunt you for years. Start with a simple framework. Every expense falls into one of three buckets. Operating expenses you deduct now. Capital improvements you depreciate over time. And items that are limited by passive loss rules, even if they are legitimate deductions. Repairs generally keep the property in efficient operating condition. Improvements generally add value, extend useful life, or adapt the property to a new use, which is why they often must be capitalized under the tangible property rules. A practical way to decide is to ask, did this restore something that was already there? Or did it upgrade the property beyond its original condition? That one question prevents most misclassifications landlords make in real life. Now, depreciation. Residential rental buildings are generally depreciated over 27.5 years under makers. And timing matters because depreciation starts when the property or improvement is placed in service. Placed in service means the unit is ready and available for rent. Not when you bought it, not when you listed it, and not when the first tenant pays. This detail is one of the most common reasons depreciation schedules go wrong. Improvements to rental property typically become their own depreciable assets with their own placed-in-service date. And that is why repairs versus improvements is not a small accounting debate. It determines whether you get cash flow now or you spread the deduction over years. Next is the passive loss system, which is where investors get frustrated. Rental real estate is often treated as a passive activity, and passive losses are generally limited to passive income unless you qualify for a special rule. The big exception most landlords hear about is the special $25,000 allowance. For rental real estate losses if you actively participate, but it phases out as your income increases. The allowance can be reduced once MAGI goes above certain levels and can disappear entirely at higher MAGI thresholds. This is why two landlords with the same property and the same expenses can get very different outcomes. One can use losses currently, and the other can be forced to carry losses forward, even though both did everything right on expenses and depreciation. There's also the real estate professional exception concept, which changes whether rental losses are passive, but it has strict requirements. This is one of those areas where the rule exists, but the qualification standard is not casual. So how do you build a rigorous 2026 deduction framework? Step 1 is classification. Label each line item as repair, improvement, or operating cost using a consistent standard based on the tangible property rules. Step 2 is depreciation discipline. Track improvements as separate assets with placed-in-service dates. And keep a clean depreciation schedule aligned with IRS guidance for rental property. Step 3 is passive loss awareness. Estimate whether the current year loss will actually reduce your current tax bill or be suspended and carried forward, because that changes the real cash flow value of the deduction. Now, here's the cash flow hook most investors miss. A deductible repair helps you now, but a capital improvement may still be a great move if it increases rent, reduces vacancy, or lowers maintenance for years. The goal isn't to avoid improvements. The goal is to classify them correctly and forecast the after-tax cash impact. Finally, the clean takeaway is this. Rental deductions are not only about finding expenses, they're about placing each expense into the right bucket so your return matches the tax rules and your strategy matches your real cash flow.